few announcements before we begin class. Glad everyone could make it in. What a difference a week or two makes. Now? How's that now? Ray in the back, can you hear me? If you've not turned in your leadership forms, please return those to a staff member as soon as you can, and there's more forms in the back if you need to get one. Remember to mark your calendar for a wedding shower for Anna Snyder and Austin Holly, and it will be Sunday, April the 19th at Allison Penrod's house. And they are registered at Target and Amazon. There will be a National Urban Ministry Conference from February the 19th through the 21st at the Levy Church Building. And this conference aims to equip churches serving in urban communities and provides strategies, theological insights, networking opportunities for an effective urban ministry. If you're interested in attending, there's some information posted on the bulletin board outside the church office over here. For our class, we've got tonight and next week will be our last one for the quarter, and then the following will be Summers Sings, and that's on February the 25th. For those who are participating in Lads to Leaders, LTL, is that right? Did I say that right, Chad? Okay. There will be the Bible Bowl practice on February the 15th from 3 to 5, and on the 18th will be the puppet practice session at 6:15, and then another item different from LTL is the ladies' morning Bible class at 10 o'clock on February the 18th. And of course, we need to remember those who've been ill with chronic illnesses. Level Davis, Gail Jenkins, Joel Gray, the Myatts, and Sue Simmons, and they could always appreciate a call or a visit or something to check on them. So before we begin class, let's have a word of prayer. Our Heavenly Father, we come to you thankful for the blessings of this day, and we appreciate the time to get together, study your word, share our thoughts, edify and encourage one another. It's our prayer, Father, that we always would remember that we are the light in our community and that people will see Jesus in us, and that we should always keep that in mind. It is our prayer, Father, as we go through this study, that we would have the mind and the open heart of the good soil. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. Okay, this is going to be a real broad, topical session, and I appreciate the folks that have tuned. There's several logged in online that are spending time with us this evening. We appreciate everyone is doing that. And so remember, I'll be trying to repeat the comments. If I'm not thinking they got picked up by this mic down here, I'll repeat them so that they could participate in, and I'll be looking on our YouTube channel to see if they send through any questions or comments. Every once in a while someone does. So these are basic, not necessarily basic principles, but I'm not sure if that's the right word, or just basic human dignity things. And this is not necessarily a lesson to say, if you're not doing this or you need to be doing this. This is just general things about life and the impact to people. And yes, it does apply to our daily lives, but it's not that Solomon's going to be saying, if you're not doing this, you're failing, or if you need to be doing this, not that kind of thing. It's just some general statements, and maybe you got a different perspective on that, and that's fine. We all come from a different perspective and a different background in how we see things. They do provide some information for self-evaluation, and that's something that all Bible study will do. So the first topic I want to talk about is hope, and we'll probably spend a good part of the session here because I believe it's very, very important to people, and hope has a spiritual application also. And so the first one I want to look at, hope deferred makes the heart sick, and these are on your handout. Makes the heart sick, but desire fulfilled is a tree of life. The spirit of a man, in 18:14, the spirit of a man can endure his sickness, but as for a broken spirit, who can bear it? And in 24:20, for there will be no future for the evil man. The lamp of the wicked will be put out. Know that wisdom is thus for your soul. If you find it, then there will be a future, and your hope will not be cut off. The reason I included 24:20, because it doesn't say the word hope, but if there's no future, there's no hope. So anyway, in Petrillo's commentary on this, Truth for Today, he said that in 13:12, he said the word heart in this case is the center from which the physical, psychic, and spiritual energies flow to the rest of the body. So if you take that perspective, then the heart, when he's talking about the heart sick in 13:12, if the heart is sick, then physical, psychic, and spiritual parts of our life are all affected, and they're all damaged. So it's critical when you think about it that way, because the whole person gets sick. I mean, it's not like we might fall. I could stumble off of here and break a wrist, because just so you know, I've always had that fear when I'm up here that I'm going to fall off this thing and break my wrist in front of everybody. But anyway, that you get a cast on it and you go on and you're about your business. You get over it, and you heal. At 73, I won't heal as fast as a 16-year-old, but I'll heal. So anyway, it's just part. But when you think about heart sickness, no hope, it's a bigger deal, much bigger deal. People who have no hope, they're miserable. They spiral down. They commit suicide because they just don't see any other option for them. And they are to that point that there's nothing that they see in this life that's worth staying around for. Now, some of you have spent time working with mental health issues and patients and things like that. I know there's other reasons. There's some people that are just vengeful and they're just going to get everybody back, and I'll show them, and so they do. But as a rule, they've not got any hope in their life, and so they give up. Now, when he says deferred, that hope deferred, what does that word mean to you, hope deferred? When you say something has been deferred, and just being deferred in and of itself, is that bad? Or is in this context of this particular verse, does it have another meaning, or does it mean something additional? Because when I say I'm going to defer going to the grocery store today, that's quite another thing, because that just means I'll probably go tomorrow or the next day. I'm deferring it. But in this case, what do you think he's getting at here when he says hope deferred?
You mean set aside?
Set aside. Mike? Or never. Right. Yeah, or never. And I think that's what he's driving at, and that's where Petrillo saw it in his commentary, that there's something that a person has desired. There's tragic things that happen. People lose someone that they were counting on their life. Maybe they were looking to a life together, to being retired together, and their husband or their wife dies. And, their life has drastically changed because of a tragic event. And some people recover from that, and some people don't. Some people don't. They never do. But I think in this case, it's something that the person is looking forward to, and they just get to the point where they see it's not going to happen. And they hope for it, they want it, they feel like they need it, and they see it's not going to happen. What does that do to a person? John?
I think sometimes when you're looking at this verse, especially if you're looking at a deferring time frame, that anxiety comes and it builds and it just exacerbates the situation more and more. And if somebody is hoping for something, as you said, good to happen in their life, and it doesn't, then that just adds to the anxiety that they have. It just mounts.
Just builds on, yeah. The anticipation of something going to happen, and then for some reason it doesn't. And it It's a huge blow. It's a huge blow. I worked with a great gal the week before she was getting married. Her fiance died in a car wreck. It took her 6 or 7 months before she could even function. And I get it. I get it. That's horrible. And something that she'd been planning, her whole adult life. And it's tough. And we have all seen or maybe experienced situations like that in life and know how that anticipation, you look forward to things and then they don't happen, tragically or otherwise, or someone changes their mind, whatever, and it just makes the heart sick. And when you say the heart's sick, it's the psychic, it's the physical, and the spiritual part of that. Now, if someone comes and says, I want to go out to eat with you, we're going to go out to eat, and then they call and say, I can't go tomorrow, can you go Friday? That's deferred, but is that the same impact? Is that the same thing? Well, I was kind of going to go there for, if you've gone out and bought a new dress, got your nails did and your hairdo, and then you get that phone call. Yeah, that could be different. But Lynetta? That's a good way to put that. It undermines trust. I like that. That's a good way to put that. I hadn't thought of that. You're trusting, counting on something or someone, something, and for whatever reason, you don't get in that school. You were applying for a different program and it didn't happen. And then last minute, and there you are. And so those things really affect a person. And I'm driving to a point. What do our words do to a person and their hope? For instance, I know that capital punishment in public is not okay, but for someone who says to a child, you're never going to amount to anything, those words destroy kids. I've seen it, I've heard it, and that's as close as time that I would say, get the rope. I know that's not okay. Or, Mike, don't kick me out. But what do those words do to a child when they hear that? You're never going to amount to anything. They believe it. They believe it. It can destroy them before they even get started. And I've seen it, heard it. Well, that family, nobody in that family ever amounts to anything, and that kid done that. Those kind of things destroy a person's hope and they destroy their outlook, and it does. It makes their heart sick. Ron. Or well, and there are those kids that are amazingly tough, and it's like, don't back them into a corner. Melba. Right.
It'll make you sick if you can't hope that way.
Yes. Does hope have to be reasonable? That's a trick question, isn't it? Does our hope do what? Well, that's not fair. I get to ask the question. I'm saying, when I say reasonable, that there is a good possibility it can happen. It's, if I was to say I want to be a Rhodes Scholar next month, that ain't gonna happen. Yes, true. Yeah, don't even go. Yeah, my IQ level, that, yeah. Yes. Yeah.
If you're hoping for somebody to do something that only God can do, that's not reasonable.
Correct.
So yes, it does have to be reasonable. On the other hand, there are things that God gives us hope for. If human reason says, that's never going to happen.
Exactly. You remember Mr. Cheney that ran for president several years ago? He was a POW. And he talked about how he got, was it Cheney? Did I say that right? Yes. Nothing wrong with me. It's that Rhodes Scholarship thing, yes. Anyway, he was a POW in North Vietnam. And he talked about how he got through it. Because those guys really felt like, they weren't the nicest host to those POWs at all. He said he got through it. He said, all I've got to do is make it through today. I just have to get through today. And then tomorrow, I'll worry about tomorrow. Did you have your hand up? Yes. Yes. For the hope has to be based on something, otherwise it's just a wish. Kind of goes back to, is it reasonable or whatever. But anyway, he talked about that. He said guys that didn't make it through were the ones that all they thought about was getting home, which who knew if they were going to? But that was his approach anyway, and I thought it was interesting. It's that reasonable thing. I got to get through today. Got to make it today. And if you're familiar with Alcoholics Anonymous, one day at one time, one day at a time. And we have a song. One day at a time, one step at a time, dear Jesus. Yes. So, for the Christian hope, Hebrews 6:19, this hope we have is an anchor of the soul, a hope both sure and steadfast, and one which enters the veil, within the veil, where Jesus has entered as a forerunner for us, having become the high priest forever, according to the order of Melchizedek. Where is our hope? Jesus. Do we see Jesus? As this verse points out, he's not here. He's behind the veil. Who's one New Testament character that saw Jesus after the ascension and after the day of Pentecost when things were going really bad for him? Stephen. He looked up and he saw Jesus, his hope. He saw that right before he fell asleep, I believe is the term it used. Hebrews 11:1. Now faith is the assurance of things hoped for. When I think about the New Testament and Christian hope, I oftentimes will look at it as a document. These men were witnesses, and they wrote it down. So I trust that these men wrote down what they saw and what they were inspired to write. And I have confidence in that. There's my hope. I have basis. Paul said, I saw a light. Jesus called to me and asked me, what am I doing? He spoke to me. You got Luke, who investigated thoroughly, as he says in the two books that he wrote, 2 letters that he wrote, that he investigated thoroughly and wrote these down so that his friend Theophilus, whoever that, as far as I'm concerned, we're all Theophilus, so we'd have a record. So I think about those things. John wrote his three short epistles and Revelation. He saw these things and he wrote them down. So we have a record. We have a basis for faith. And in the Old Testament, the miracles that the prophets saw and then were recorded. Those are the things we build our hope in. Now, what part y'all probably feel like I'm beating this to death. I'm sorry. I am going to move on. What part does loneliness play in a person's hope? What'd you say, Ladetta? It's a huge part, isn't it? If they feel like if a person is in a situation there, they have no one, that gnaws away at a person's hope. They don't have any encouragement, anyone who checks on them, anyone who even knows if they're dead or alive today. And that loneliness can gnaw at a person. So, for us as a Christian, we need to be checking on people. If they don't show up for church or whatever, we've got people who are shut in. They need to be checked on so that they are not lonesome. So anyway, okay, I think the horse is dead. We'll move on. Justice and honesty. Abundant food is in the fallow ground of the poor, but is swept away by injustice. So a lot of these are going to be this way. These are the ones I picked out. 17:23, a wicked man receives a bribe from the bosom to pervert the ways of justice. Proverbs 18:15, to show partiality to the wicked is not good, nor to thrust aside the righteous in judgment. I'm going to skip 18:17 for right now and skip down to 20:10 and 20:23, and they basically say the same thing, differing weights and measures. They're an abomination. Both of them are abominable, or in 23 it says an abomination to the Lord. God expects his people to act fair and honestly and just. James kind of alludes to this in his letter when he says, the poor guy in the rags comes in and we say, well, you go sit over here. And the guy comes in well-dressed and wealthy and he says, well, you come sit over here in a more prominent place. It's showing favoritism. And God is adamantly opposed to that. This is part of the reason I listed hope first, because injustice, what does it do to a person's hope? It gnaws away at it too. If they feel like there's no fairness, there's no way I'm going to get what's due me, their hope is damaged. They can get to that point of despair. If they feel like just because I'm not as well off, not as well known, whatever it may be, that I'm not going to get justice, then they feel like they don't have any hope either. Now skipping back up to 18:17, the first to plead his case seems right until another comes and examines him. How many of y'all have been in management positions? How many of y'all have had to deal with some come blaring into you and spouting off some gross injustice that has been committed against them until you investigate? Which behooves that the first, another saying is the guy that throws the first punch wins. Sometimes that's true. But what he's pointing out here is you can't just accept everything on face value. You have to check into it. And all of you who have managed, if you've got more than 2 people in the office, you're the manager, you're probably going to have to referee something. Or mamas and daddies, if you got more than 1 kid in the house, Vanessa, yes, you're going to go in there and separate and figure out what's going on, or just smack them all and go on, right? But we've all been there. We've seen someone comes in and we're in a position where we have to make a judgment call, and we have to realize, and Solomon's reminding us that you can't just, the first person that comes in throws the first punch. That's not where it is. And so I believe that this can be applied to anyone in some kind of decision. In Petrillo's commentary, he said the people are prone to quick judgment, sometimes because of laziness. Yeah. Or looking for an easy answer. Then the last couple of verses, 21:13 through 15. He who shuts his ear to the cry of the poor will also cry himself and not be answered. A gift in secret subdues anger, and a bribe in the bosom strong wrath. The exercise of justice is joy for the righteous, but is a terror to the workers of iniquity. You know, we talked about justice in the land, how it provides stability to a land or to a city or to a municipality or to a work situation. If there's justice and there's fairness, it provides stability. He's going to, you know, in verse 13, he who shuts his ear to the cry of the poor will also cry himself and not be answered. What does that mean? If you had a chance to do something and you didn't, what?
You don't show mercy, mercy won't be shown to you. Don't forgive others,
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, just however long you want that list to go. Yeah. We're all gonna need help sometime. We're all gonna need mercy sometime. We're all gonna need forgiveness sometimes. And so if we don't show any of that, now I really went far and wide with this one phrase here, but if we don't show some compassion, there's going to be a day that we'll need compassion. Mark, did you have your hand up? No? Okay. I'm not trying to pick on you. Okay. So I think it's safe to say that God expects fairness in all the dealings in the church, in our community, in our family. And it goes back to this hope thing. If there's not fairness, the people who are not being treated fairly start losing hope, and it's critical. Okay, fear. Proverbs 10:24. What the wicked fears will come upon him, but the desire of the righteous will be granted. Now, how is that? What the wicked fears will come upon him. What do you think he's going there? What's he fearing? What's the wicked fearing?
Bad stuff coming right back on.
Mm-hmm. Judgment, getting caught.
Jesus said, judge not, that you may not judge.
This is true, yes. So, is there a spiritual application there? I'm asking for you to kind of, push the limit of this verse a little bit. I know we've done that in several cases. So, does the wicked always fear?
I think sometimes when people, it seems like these days, they just think him from Christians. And I think they're afraid that Christians are right, and they're just a little bit convicted.
Okay.
Not that they're going to do anything with it, but how they handle it is with anger
True.
and blame, or try to blame.
So, are you saying, you don't have to be the only one answers that just the mere fact that a righteous person is around, it elicits something in them, guilt, anger?
If you let your light shine, and everybody's not going to sit that way.
True.
These days, a lot of people, it's like you just, y'all are the problem.
Yes.
It's because they want to do people, and they feel like that.
Yeah, I like where you're going there. And, as we get older, we probably don't get tested this way. But when we're younger in work situations or with school kids, we get invited to do things and we go. When we're a teenager, we might say, my daddy would kill me if I went and did that. Rightfully so. And then mama would pull him off and she'd start, right? But when you say, no, I'm not going to do that, oftentimes, what's the response to the people that ask? How do the people respond? Chicken, they get angry, whatever. That's true. But going back, are they going to get judgment at some point? And I think that's where he's going here. If they fear, is that fear is he saying that is going to become reality at some point? Maybe not until the judgment day, but
You mean someday you'll get caught?
get caught or judged or whatever? Do you think that's where he's going with this? And again, it's just one verse, can't build a whole doctrine out of it, and I don't want to be guilty of that, but something to think about. Anxiety in a man's heart weighs it down, but a good word makes it glad. I equated anxiety with fear in this case. Probably not an equal relationship if you looked it up in a thesaurus or dictionary or whatever. But I equate, in this case, people are anxious, they're fearful, and that's where I'm coming from. They're anxious, they're fearful about things in their life. So a good word, is that a good word of encouragement? What is that? Is that someone that is close to you, your family, your Christian brother or sister, knowing you well enough to know that you're having a bad time, and they encourage you, they check on you, they ask how you're doing, do something to give you some encouragement? You think that's where he's going with this verse? Yes or no?
We always like to be encouraged
Yes.
because it validates the direction we're going.
Okay. But what if we're going in the wrong direction? You ain't dealing with that.
It all falls back to you're trying to do right.
Okay.
You're going to get somewhere down the road, you'll find some validation that may be, like you say, I'm doing the right thing, and then everybody's all of a sudden all over here in your face about it. So, you know, you can realize, you know, I'm trying to do what's right, and if they're not going to pay attention, I guess it's time for me to move over and let them go by.
You evaluate the situation you're in and you adjust your activities. Plan, do, check, and adjust. How many of y'all have heard that in the business world? David, you got your hand up? Yes.
Sometimes those struggles, people can put on a face and live that out for decades and decades, and people don't know they're struggling. So you walk into a place and say, how you doing? I'm doing great. You move on, right? Those people don't want to stop. So, man, I'm really worried about something. You know, oh, here we go. They go the other way. So focus on the good word part. It's just, there's power in community, there's power in belief, there's power in motivating someone, or encouraging someone, and people like to hear that, right? You just never know what people are doing with the silence. So, slowing down a little bit, getting out of our box, you know, and recognizing that may be a little difficult.
Mm-hmm.
The Bible's very clear about community, about doing that. So that's a tough one.
It is.
People that are struggling with that.
And they could be anxious about so many different things, their health, their family, their whatever. Mike, did you? No. Yes.
Yeah, just kind of a different angle on it. I agree with what you said, that I guess when you go back to 10:24, that's what the wicked fears will come upon him. That person was anxious that something was going to happen because of their wickedness. And they can be encouraged where that anxiousness goes away, even though it should stay there. So I think we need to almost watch out. You don't encourage somebody into doing something they shouldn't be doing. And sometimes we do that maybe even unwillingly, right? Because like your example of, you know, teenagers, they get asked out, and if you say, yes, I'm going to do that thing, or yes, I'll go along and let you do that thing, it's almost like you're giving them permission to do what they're doing it's okay to do.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
it's time to do that just because kind of go along to get along, you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings or whatever. So I think we need to be careful about what we encourage, even though that's not as big an issue as not encouraging them at all. I agree with all
Right.
that you said before.
I agree with her, and we've probably all been in a situation where we just participated in something and we get there and we look around and go, I need to leave. Yeah, I mean, it happens, yeah. And by agreeing, we are saying it's okay. Yeah. Okay. The fear of man brings a snare, but he who trusts in the Lord will be exalted. Why does fear of man bring a snare? Snare, what's a snare? A trap. So what is it about the fear of man that brings a snare? And where I'm going with this is what Jesus said about who to fear. What did Jesus say who we should fear? Debbie, what'd you say? Yes. Yes, body. And here it is, Luke 12. I say to you, my friends, do not be afraid of those who kill the body and after that have no more that they can do. But I will warn you whom to fear. Fear the one is capitalized in the New American Standard, meaning that's deity, right? Fear the one who, after he has killed, has authority to cast into hell. Yes, I tell you, fear him. So how is the fear of man a snare? Number one, we're fearing the wrong thing. And fearing mankind, man, can it lead us to incorrect behavior? Yes. Yes. Or not do something. For example, those of you who have participated in personal work and you're talking to someone about their soul, but they will not obey the gospel because of family. They'll get kicked out of their family. Their family will ostracize them. They'll lose a certain group of friends. Have you experienced that before? Have you seen that? So how does having hope dispel fear? If we have hope, how does that remove fear?
Well, that person that you know about fearing the family and stuff, it'd be nice if they would have the hope that they could bring the family along too.
That's one, yes. Every what? Exactly. Again, a song, this world is not my home because this is temporary. And so having hope lets us get through those times. Many of you, like me, I'm blessed beyond. My family, my extended family are faithful members of the church. I never had to deal with being ostracized. Not everyone here has had that blessing, but it's powerful, and we've seen it. You can see it happen. And having hope is how we get through those things. A hope that I want to read it. I don't want to mess up here sometimes. The assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. That's what gets us through the things of life. Joy and sorrow. Good on time. 17:21. He who sires a fool does so to his sorrow, and the father of a fool has no joy. A joyful heart is good medicine, but a broken spirit dries up the bones. Watched an interview this week. I was kind of talking, and it was an elderly man. He was in his 90s, and they asked him what was the best thing about his life. He'd been married for 60 plus years. His wife had passed away, but they said, what is the best thing about your life? He said, the best thing about my life is my kids have grown up and become productive, good human beings. I'd buy that. Nothing can make a parent sicker and feel worse than to see their child go down a trail that's going to lead to destruction. Petrillo described it as equivalent. The foolish son brings to the father is the equivalent to his being tortured. I would agree with that. Do you think the child never has a clue what he or she is doing to their parents? Okay. Melvin and Lynette? They're not, yeah. Lynetta, what were you going to say? Oh, I'm sorry, Patsy. You're just sitting back there being so quiet and nice. Yeah. The urge to participate is stronger than, yeah. I do believe that the children see. I mean, they can read their parents' facial expressions in their mind. Of course, we've probably seen kids or maybe had a child that I'm going to do it anyway. Tell me to do it, and I'm going to do the opposite. There are those out there. All righty, the bell's going to catch us. The last thing, I put this last because it, to me, wasn't a huge thing, but these are things that Agar, he just talks about general knowledge things, and you can read through those. And he starts out talking about things that he doesn't fully understand. And I put that there because it's okay to say I don't understand everything. That's the only reason I put those verses in there, really. I mean, he doesn't understand the soaring eagle and the serpent on the rock and the ship in the middle of the sea and the way of a man with a maid. He doesn't get and understand all that. I just put those there because it's okay. It's okay not to know and understand everything in this world that's going on. You know, I took that way of a man with a maid as sometimes you look and say, what did she see in him and what did he see in her? You don't know. That's their business, not mine. All right, and then he goes on and he talks about things that the earth cannot bear up, and a slave that becomes king, a fool when he's satisfied with food, under an unloved woman when she gets a husband, and a maidservant when he supplants her mistress. I think we understand, a slave when he becomes king, he's not trained for it, doesn't have the talent, doesn't have the ability, hadn't had the preparation, and so a slave that becomes king is going to be a disaster. I wanted to mention this unloved woman when she gets a husband. Trillo was talking about this is a person. He's describing a person. And when we think about unloved, we might have a different perspective. But his perspective on that was that she is someone who is intensely disliked and for a reason. And so if she does get married, it's going to be a miserable marriage. Because it's going to be vengeful, it's going to be, he said no one wanted her. And so when she does find herself in that situation, she's going to be pretty vengeful. That was his take on this verse. That's probably a good a take, as you're going to find on that one. And the maidservant who supplants her mistress, she did it by trickery. I immediately thought of Hagar and Sarah. I don't know that she did that on purpose, but you know what a problem it became when she had a child, Sarah didn't, and things got one more confirmation that it's one man and one woman, boys and girls. One man, one woman. And in the words of the famous boys, a man can't stock two shelves. What's the group? Oak Ridge Boys, come on. They talked about how stupid that is. But anyway, go ahead. What? I already opened the door. Yeah, well, that's the theme of that song was, you're an idiot. Yes, all right. I dug that hole. I need to get out of that hole that I dug. Okay, the bell saved me. Next week, I'll have plenty of opportunity to get in trouble. We're going to talk about husbands, wives, family, children, and all that. Plenty of fodder to get in trouble with. I really appreciate the comments tonight, Excellent comments and thoughts shared. Thank you very much.